After I paid my brother's rent for a year, he said I was selfish for not helping him buy a car. So I stopped being his safety net and watched him learn what consequences taste like. My name's Ethan, 32, male, and I learned the hard way that helping family can turn you into their personal ATM until you finally shut the vault. I've got one sibling, my brother Matt, 29, male. We grew up close, at least I thought we did. He was the fun one, laid back, always had friends, always knew how to charm people out of their last dollar or last nerve. Me? I was the responsible one. The one who paid bills on time, kept a steady job, didn't crash cars or get kicked out of apartments. Basically, the boring older brother who didn't know how to live. 2 years ago, Matt's living caught up with him. He got fired from his sales job, something about showing up drunk to a client lunch, and his girlfriend dumped him the same week. Suddenly, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. First it was, "Bro, can I crash with you for a few nights?" Which turned into 3 weeks. Then it was, "I just need a little help with rent, I'll pay you back." That one line, "I'll pay you back," became his catchphrase. Spoiler, he never did. When his landlord threatened eviction, I did the thing older brothers are guilt-wired to do. I covered his rent, $2,200 a month, for 12 months. A full year of being his safety net while he got back on his feet. I told myself I was doing it out of love. Truth is, I was doing it out of guilt. Because growing up, Mom always made me feel like I had to look out for him. "You're the older one, Ethan. Be patient with your brother." Translation: "Let him screw up. You'll clean it up." At first, I didn't mind. He'd send me texts like, "You're saving my life, bro," or, "Once I get this new job, I'll make it up to you." But weeks turned into months. His job search was just scrolling LinkedIn between Call of Duty matches. When I'd gently suggest getting something temporary, bartending, warehouse work, anything, he'd say, "I'm not lowering myself to that crap. I'm a sales guy. I sell dreams, not tires." Yeah, dreams. Mostly the ones other people paid for. The last straw came one night when I stopped by his apartment to drop off groceries. He opened the door in new sneakers, sipping top-shelf whiskey, watching some influencer podcast on a massive flat screen I knew I didn't buy. He bragged about some girl he met who gets his vibe, whatever that meant. When I mentioned that his lease was coming up, he said, dead serious, "Yeah, I was actually hoping you could help me out with a car. I can't keep taking the bus, it's depressing." I thought I misheard him. I asked, "You mean like a down payment?" And he shrugged. "Or, buy it outright if you can swing it. You're doing good, right? Don't be selfish." Selfish. That word hit me like a punch. Selfish after a year of paying his rent, his groceries, his everything. My jaw actually locked. I laughed, because if I didn't laugh, I might have screamed and said, "You're right, I've been selfish." Then I left. That was the night I decided I was done being his safety net. I was going to let him fall and hear the snap when his entitlement hit the ground. And God, did it snap hard. The funny thing about saying I'm done is that it feels powerful for about 30 seconds. Then the guilt sets in. That night, I sat in my car outside Matt's building, engine running, just staring at the steering wheel. My chest was tight, my jaw aching from clenching it. I kept hearing Mom's voice in my head. "He's your brother, Ethan. Family doesn't turn their back on family." But then I'd see that whiskey bottle on his counter. The sneakers. The way he looked at me like I was a walking credit card with a pulse. I drove home, opened my laptop, and canceled the automatic rent payments I'd been sending to his landlord. Then I sent him a single text. "You've got 30 days. After that, you're on your own. No emojis, no apology, just that." He didn't reply. For a week, I heard nothing. Then the storm began. First came the guilt texts. "Bro, you know I'm trying, and you can't just bail on me like that." When I didn't answer, the tone changed. "Guess money really changed you. You think you're better than me now?" And my personal favorite, "You're acting just like Dad." That one hit deeper than I wanted it to. Dad was the kind of man who could make silence feel like punishment. He'd go weeks without talking to us after a fight, the kind of cold that stuck to your ribs. I'd promised myself I'd never be like him. But sitting there, rereading Matt's texts, I realized maybe silence was the only language he'd ever listened to. 2 weeks later, I got a call from Mom. She didn't even say hello. "Ethan, what's this I hear about you cutting your brother off? He's your family." I told her calmly that I'd been paying his rent for a year and that he needed to stand on his own. Her sigh was sharp, like she was trying to exhale all her disappointment through the phone. "You're being cruel. He's struggling." I said, "He's lazy, Mom. There's a difference." That was the first time I'd said it out loud, and it felt both terrible and freeing. She launched into her usual script about compassion and second chances. I hung up before she finished. The next month, true to my word, I stopped the payments. Matt called once, screaming, slurring, threatening to make me regret this. I hung up. After that, radio silence. Until 3 weeks later, when I got home from work to find my front door wide open. The house wasn't trashed exactly, but something was off. The living room smelled like cigarette smoke, and the mail I'd left on the counter was scattered across the floor. My laptop was gone. So was my PS5. I froze. My stomach sank. Only 2 people had keys, me and Matt. I called the police, filed a report, but there wasn't much they could do without proof. The officer said it looked like someone who knew the layout. Yeah, no kidding. I didn't even need to confront him to know the silence said it all. I changed the locks that night. A week later, Mom called again, crying this time. "Ethan, what did you do? Matt's living out of his car. He says you stole from him." I actually laughed. "He stole from me, Mom." But she wouldn't hear it. "He's your brother. You can't just abandon him." That word, abandon, made me want to scream. I'd carried that man through every failure of his adult life, and suddenly, I was the villain because I finally said no. I told her the truth. If he's living in his car, it's because that's the only thing left he hasn't pawned. She hung up on me. I thought maybe that would be the end of it. Let him drift, figure it out. But people like Matt don't learn quietly. They explode. And when they do, they take pieces of you with them. A month went by with no contact, which should have been a relief. But silence from Matt wasn't peace. It was the calm before the chaos. It started small. My boss, Dave, called me into his office one Tuesday. "Hey, man," he said, awkwardly scratching his chin. "I got a weird call this morning. Some guy claiming you've been stealing company resources to do side jobs." My stomach dropped. I didn't even need to ask who called. Dave slid his phone across the desk, and sure enough, there it was in the voicemail transcript. "This is Ethan's brother. Thought you should know he's been using your trucks on weekends for cash jobs." None of it was true, obviously. I've always been careful, clean record, good reputation. But hearing that smug, petty voice on speaker made my blood go cold. That wasn't just desperation anymore. That was malice. I tried to play it cool, told Dave I'd never used a company truck for personal work, and thankfully, he believed me. But I left the office shaking. Matt wasn't just burning bridges, he was trying to burn me with them. Then came the social media nonsense. I woke up one morning to 30 unread messages from friends, screenshots of a Facebook post from Matt, ranting about how I'd abandoned family and let my own brother go homeless. He even posted an old picture of us from high school with the caption, "Some people forget where they came from when they start making money." The comments were a circus. His friends pitying him, distant relatives weighing in with crap like, "That's what money does to people." Nobody knew the full story. Nobody saw the rent payments or the whiskey bottles or my missing laptop. They just saw a sob story, and he played it perfectly. Mom shared the post. That part stung the most. No caption, no defense, just the little heart emoji. I didn't respond publicly. I couldn't. I didn't want to feed it. But inside, something hardened, something cold. 2 days later, I came home from work and found my mailbox ripped off the wall. Just gone. The screws were still sticking out of the brick. A few days after that, someone keyed my car. Deep, ugly gashes right across the driver's side door. No note, no witnesses, but I knew. Matt had always been impulsive, but this was different. This was personal. I called the cops again. They took another report, said without video or an eyewitness, there wasn't much they could do. I installed cameras the next day. That weekend, Mom called for the third time in as many weeks. "Ethan, you have to talk to your brother. He's not doing well. He said you embarrassed him online." "I didn't post anything, Mom," I said. "He's embarrassing himself." "You don't understand," she insisted. "He's family." There it was again, family. The word that used to mean safety, now it just made me tired. When I didn't respond, she switched tactics. Her voice went softer, pleading. You've always been the responsible one, honey. Maybe if you just help him one more time. I hung up mid-sentence. That night, I watched the camera feed from my front porch before bed. The streetlights were dim, just a yellow wash of nothing. I was half asleep when movement caught my eye. Someone pacing in the corner of the frame, hood up, cigarette glowing faintly in the dark. He stood there for almost 10 minutes, staring at my door, then walked off. I froze the footage, zoomed in on the shoes. I recognized them instantly. The same white sneakers Matt had been wearing the night I dropped off groceries, the ones he'd bragged about being limited edition. The realization hit me like a weight on my chest. My own brother had gone from guilt-tripping to stalking. And that was the night I stopped feeling guilty. Because now, it wasn't about family anymore. It was about safety. I started planning. Quietly, carefully. The kind of plan that would make sure he'd never be able to twist my life, or anyone else's, again. And the revenge that came next? It wasn't loud. It wasn't messy. It was precise. Surgical. He'd called me selfish. Now he was about to find out what it really meant when I stopped caring. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak in the house felt like footsteps. Every passing car made me check the front camera again. By morning, I was running on caffeine and adrenaline. That's when I realized something. Matt wasn't just spiraling. He wanted control. The same control he'd always had over me. And fear? That was just another currency to him. So I decided to stop paying. First move. I went to the bank. The joint emergency account I'd opened years ago, back when I thought helping family meant being prepared for their screw-ups, was still technically open. There wasn't much in it, maybe $3,500, but I transferred every penny to my own savings and closed the account on the spot. The teller hesitated, asked, "Are you sure you don't want to keep it active for emergencies?" I smiled. "I'm done funding other people's emergencies." Next, I called the landlord of Matt's old apartment. The guy actually laughed when I told him who I was. "You mean the one who left beer bottles in the bathtub and 3 holes in the drywall? Yeah, that one owes me 2 months' rent." "Send me the bill," I said, "but put it in his name." He chuckled. "Oh, so you're finally done being the hero?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "Heroes don't last long in this family." By that weekend, I'd made my second move. I filed a police report, not just for the break-in, but also for harassment. I sent them the security footage, every voicemail, every text. They said they'd document it, not much else. Still, it was something, a line in the sand. That night, I blocked Matt's number. Every call, every social media account, gone. Clean slate. I thought maybe, just maybe, that would be the end of it. But people like my brother don't vanish when you cut them off. They dig in deeper, clawing for a reaction. A few days later, I got a knock on my door. It wasn't him. It was Mom, standing there in her church clothes like she was about to host an intervention. Her face was tight, rehearsed. "Can I come in?" she asked. I stepped aside, though every part of me wanted to slam the door. She looked around the house, her eyes landing on the camera equipment by the door. "You're really taking this too far," she said. "He broke in, Mom." She waved a hand, dismissive. "He's going through a lot. You two need to talk." "No, Mom. He needs to grow up." She crossed her arms, her voice trembling, not from sadness but from rage. "You sound just like your father when he walked out. Cold. Selfish." There it was again, that word. Selfish. I actually laughed, but it came out more like a bark. "You want to know what selfish is, Mom? Selfish is expecting someone to clean up your messes forever and then crying when they stop." Her face crumpled. "You're hurting him." "No," I said, my voice low. "He's hurting himself. I'm just finally letting him feel it." She left without another word. That night, around 1 a.m., my cameras picked up a car pulling into the driveway. Same beat-up Nissan Matt drove when he wasn't couch surfing. He didn't come to the door this time, he just sat there. Engine idling, headlights off, for 30 minutes. I called the cops again. They arrived just as he drove off, but it was enough to file another report. This time, they warned me to stay cautious. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going to wait for him to escalate. I was going to end this my way. Not with fists, not with police, with truth. Matt had spent years spinning lies to make himself look like the victim. But I had receipts, bank transfers, screenshots, texts, even a note from the landlord about his property damage. I gathered everything into one folder. And then, on a quiet Sunday morning, I logged into Facebook, the same place he'd been publicly trashing me, and wrote one single post. For anyone wondering why my brother and I don't speak anymore, I paid his rent for a year, covered his bills, and replaced the laptop he pawned. He repaid me by breaking into my house and trying to ruin my job. I'm done being his safety net. Actions have consequences. I attached the receipts, every payment, every message. I didn't add anger or insult, just facts. Within hours, the comments exploded. Friends, cousins, old coworkers of his, people I hadn't heard from in years, calling him out, tagging him, demanding answers. By that evening, he'd deleted his account entirely. For the first time in years, my phone was quiet, peaceful. But peace never lasts long when you take power away from someone who thrives on chaos. And Matt wasn't going to go quietly. He was just getting started. Update. Wow, I didn't expect this to blow up the way it did. I posted because I needed to vent, not because I thought thousands of strangers would dissect my entire family dynamic like an episode of Dr. Phil meets Breaking Bad. But honestly, reading your comments, especially the ones calling out the manipulation and guilt tripping, hit me hard in the best way. Some of y'all said, "You're not selfish, you're just tired." And I swear that sentence has been echoing in my head all week. Others called my brother a textbook narcissist with a victim complex. I used to think that word was overused. Now it feels like it was invented for Matt. A few people messaged me saying I should have just ignored him instead of posting proof online. Trust me, I get it. But you have to understand, he'd spent months smearing my name to everyone we knew. I didn't want revenge at first. I wanted clarity. I wanted people to see what really happened. But the fallout, yeah, it's been a mess. The post went semi-viral in our small town. Friends, coworkers, even a few of Matt's old drinking buddies shared it around. Within 24 hours, he was calling me from unknown numbers, leaving these frantic voicemails that swung between sobbing and screaming. "You ruined my life, then. You're gonna regret this." Same call, two moods. Mom showed up again 3 days later, this time red-eyed and shaking. Apparently, Matt's been couch surfing at some guy's place after getting kicked out of the motel he'd been staying at. She said, "He's saying people are threatening him online because of Yayo." I told her calmly, "I didn't tell anyone to threaten him. I told the truth." She said, "He might hurt himself." That one stopped me cold. For a second, all my anger drained out, because no matter what he'd done, he's still my brother. I called the police to request a welfare check. They found him fine. Angry, hungover, very much alive. After that, the guilt came flooding back. But then, I got home the next night and found my car windshield smashed. A rock on the hood. Written across the glass in thick black marker, "Rat." The cameras caught him doing it. That broke something in me. The fear turned into disgust. He wanted to prove he could still reach me, still make me react. I didn't even call him this time. I just sent the footage to the cops, filed another report, and printed a restraining order form the same night. Here's the crazy part. People started messaging me now. Old family friends, mutual contacts, even a woman he used to date. One of them said, "You're not the first person he's done this to. He gets people to rescue him, then blames them when the rescuing stops." So yeah, I guess the internet was right. Matt's pattern didn't start with me. I just happened to be the last idiot who kept paying for it. For now, I've taken a few days off work. I'm staying with a friend while I figure out what to do next. The cops said they'll monitor the situation, but let's be real. Unless he breaks another law, they won't step in. I keep thinking about that word again, selfish. Maybe he was right in a way. Maybe selfish isn't always bad. Maybe it's just choosing yourself when everyone else treats you like a safety net. Anyway, thank you to everyone who's been sending kind messages. I'm not sure where this goes next, but I have a feeling the calm isn't going to last. Because last night, a brand new Facebook account popped up under the name Truth About Ethan. And guess who just posted a bunch of screenshots that look suspiciously fake? I didn't sleep after seeing that fake Truth About Ethan page. It was surreal, scrolling through a feed full of fabricated screenshots and twisted half-truths about me. He made it look like I'd stolen money from him, that I'd abused him emotionally, that I was some greedy narcissist who used my financial advantage to control others. He even tagged people we both knew, old classmates, relatives, coworkers. My phone buzzed nonstop with texts from people asking what was going on. I could practically hear the smirk behind every lie he posted. That's when something inside me flipped. Up until then, I'd been trying to survive his chaos, block him, report him, hide from him. But now, no more hiding. I wasn't going to keep playing defense while he trashed my name to anyone who'd listen. If he wanted a war, fine. I'd fight it on my terms. And here's the thing about being the responsible one all your life. You get good at keeping records, receipts, emails, timelines. I didn't realize how much I'd collected until I sat down at my desk that night. There it was. Every Venmo transfer, every rent payment confirmation, text threads where he promised to pay me back, and my security footage of him vandalizing my car. But the crown jewel was something I'd almost forgotten. Screenshots of him bragging in a group chat months ago about hustling me for rent money while focusing on his brand. His brand apparently involved selling bootleg sneakers and weed out of his trunk. So I built a folder. Digital, clean, time-stamped. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I called my buddy Aaron, who works in IT security at a local credit union. "You still do digital forensics on the side?" I asked. He laughed. "What did your brother do this time?" I told him everything. By the next day, Aaron had pulled data from the fake page's posts. IP address, location, device info. Guess what? All of it traced back to Matt's phone. I didn't post that immediately. I wanted to do this right. No more emotional reactions. I waited until a Friday night when I knew most of our social circle was online. Then I dropped one final Facebook post. No essay, no anger, just screenshots. For anyone still following the circus, here's proof that the Truth About Ethan page was made by Matt. These are the IP traces, the timestamps, and the same number he used to send me threats. I'm done explaining myself. I attached the evidence and went offline. Within an hour, the fake page was gone, deleted. But the damage to his reputation had only just begun. Friends who used to defend him started posting comments like, "Guess the truth came out." Even our mom's church friends, her church friends, started asking her if she knew what her son had done. By Saturday morning, Matt called me from a new number. His voice was shaking, part fury, part panic. "You ruined my life again, man. You made me look like a psycho." I said quietly, "You didn't need my help for that." He went silent for a second. Then the mask slipped. His voice dropped low and ugly. "You think this is over? I'll make you regret embarrassing me." He hung up before I could answer. Later that night, I caught something on the cameras again. Not him this time, but a black trash bag left on my porch. Inside, shredded paper, smashed beer cans, and one of those old picture frames of me and him as kids. The glass was cracked. It was symbolic, I'll give him that. The cops filed yet another report but warned me, "He's spiraling. Be careful." So I took their advice. I called Aaron again, this time for something a little more serious. We set up motion-triggered floodlights, remote camera alerts to my phone, and a cloud backup for all footage. Then, I did something I'd been putting off for months. I called Dad. He hadn't been in the picture much. He and Mom split when we were teens. But he'd always said, "You can't help someone who likes being the victim." When I told him what was happening, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Don't play fair anymore, son. He's not fighting fair, so why should you?" That hit different. By Sunday, I decided I wasn't going to wait for Matt to implode on his own. I was going to give him the nudge he'd been begging for. I had a plan forming, part justice, part lesson, and it was going to hit him exactly where he lived, his pride. Because if he wanted to teach me what selfish meant, I was about to return the favor. Sweetly, publicly, and permanently. Revenge doesn't always need fire or fists. Sometimes it just needs light. And I had plenty of that, literal and metaphorical. After talking to Dad, something in me clicked. I wasn't out to destroy Matt's life. He'd done that himself. I just wanted him to see it, without the filter of excuses, without Mom coddling him or anyone cleaning up the wreckage. I wanted him to face the truth, bare and blinding. And, yeah, maybe I wanted him to choke on it a little. Over the next week, I started putting my plan together. My job had taught me something about systems, how pressure builds in silence until something cracks. Matt had spent years hiding his failures behind other people's sympathy. So that's what I was going to take away from him. His audience. Step 1 was a quiet one. I contacted every landlord, employer, and friend who'd ever reached out to me over the years about helping Matt. I sent them all the same brief email. If Matt uses me as a reference or mentions financial help, please know that I'm no longer affiliated with him. He's responsible for his own actions now. Professional, polite, no ranting, just a cold cut of truth. Step 2 was what I called the mirror. Remember those group chats he used to show off in? The ones where he bragged about his businesses and investments? He'd left one of his old group threads wide open on Facebook Messenger months ago when he logged into my Wi-Fi. I still had the credentials. I scrolled through the old messages, a mix of nonsense and half-baked hustles, and found gold. Messages where he admitted to scamming people on sneaker resales, promising refunds he never delivered. I screenshotted everything and sent them anonymously to the chat. No captions, no commentary, just his words. And then I waited. Within hours, the dominoes started falling. One guy he owed $400 to posted, "Yo, so that's why you ghosted me?" Another chimed in, "Man, you bragged about ripping off a single mom over Jordans." The group turned on him faster than a pack of wolves. He tried defending himself, but they started screenshotting that too. It spread like wildfire through their mutual circles. All those people who once pitied him now saw what he really was, not a victim, just a parasite who bit every hand that fed him. By midweek, Matt called me again, this time from an unknown number, voice trembling with rage. "You think you're clever? You think humiliating me makes you the good guy?" "No," I said, calm as a stone. "It just makes me free." Then I hung up. The next day, Mom called. I almost didn't answer. But guilt is a stubborn ghost. She didn't start with small talk. "He's staying with me now," she said. "He's broken, Ethan. Completely broken." I stayed silent. "You should have seen his face," she continued. "He won't eat, won't talk. He says everyone hates him because of you." My voice came out low, even. "No, Mom. They hate him because they finally see him." She started to cry. Quiet, bitter sobs that sounded like frustration more than grief. "I don't even recognize you anymore." "Good," I said. "Maybe that means I'm finally myself." That night, I drove to clear my head. Ended up parked outside Mom's neighborhood, staring at the dim yellow light leaking from her kitchen window. A silhouette moved past the blinds, his. For a second, I thought about walking up, saying something, anything. But then I remembered the glass picture frame he'd smashed and left on my porch, the word rat scrawled across my car, the endless lies, and I drove away. I thought that was the end of it. Until 2 nights later, I got a call from Aaron. "You're not going to believe this," he said. "Your brother's been trying to delete stuff, his old accounts, emails, all of it. Looks like he's trying to wipe his tracks." "Good," I said. "Let him." Then Aaron hesitated. Except he also posted something first. Publicly, like a confession. I opened my phone. There it was. A long Facebook post from Matt, time-stamped 20 minutes earlier. The first paragraph was defensive, but then it cracked open. "I used people. I lied. I burned bridges and blamed everyone else. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want to say I finally get it now." The comments section was quiet. No one mocked him. No one comforted him either. Just silence. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like the end of something ugly. For the first time in years, I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel scared. I just felt done. I went to bed that night, my phone face down on the nightstand, and slept like a man who'd finally cut the last string tying him to a sinking ship. But peace doesn't stay forever. And the next morning, there was a voicemail waiting for me. Not from Matt, from Mom. Her voice was shaking. "Ethan, something happened. You need to come over." Update 2. I wasn't sure I'd ever post here again. I thought my last update would be the end. Clean, quiet, no loose ends. But life doesn't work like that, not when family's involved. When Mom called that morning, her voice didn't sound like the usual guilt trip or moral lecture. It sounded small, shaky, like she was holding her breath between words. She just said, "It's Matt. Please come." I don't even remember the drive over. I just remember the dread. The kind that settles in your bones before you even know what's wrong. When I pulled up, her front door was wide open. Police lights flashed across the siding. Two officers stood on the lawn talking to a paramedic. I froze in the driveway. For one awful second, I thought he'd done something irreversible. But when I finally saw him, sitting on the porch steps, head in his hands, wrists scraped up but alive, I felt this dizzy mix of anger and relief. He wasn't dead. He was just empty. Mom rushed over the moment she saw me. "He tried to break in again," she whispered. But this time it was my house. Apparently, she'd caught him yanking open the side window, mumbling that he needed to grab his stuff. When she tried to stop him, he shoved her back. A neighbor saw and called 911. When I walked closer, he looked up at me. His eyes were bloodshot, his face hollow. "You happy now?" he said. "You got what you wanted. Everyone hates me." I didn't say anything, because the truth is, I didn't know what I wanted anymore. Revenge had felt righteous in theory. Justice, closure, whatever you want to call it, but seeing him like that, shaking and broken, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like standing over a crater you helped carve. The cops let Mom press charges if she wanted, but she didn't. She just told them she'd handle it as a family. They left after a while and the house went quiet again, except for her crying in the kitchen. I sat down across from him on the porch. The air smelled like rain and cigarette smoke. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "I don't hate you," I said finally. "I just stopped saving you." He laughed, this dry, bitter sound. "Same thing." "No," I said. "It's not." He didn't reply, just rubbed his face and muttered, "I don't even know who I am anymore." And that's when it hit me. He really didn't. He'd spent so long making his identity out of me, out of the brother who bailed him out, the one he could blame, the one who'd always catch him, that when I stopped, there was nothing left for him to stand on. I stayed with Mom that night, partly to make sure she was okay, partly because I couldn't leave things hanging like that. The three of us sat in silence, the kind that only exists when there's nothing left to fight about. Around midnight, I went to the guest room, pulled out my phone, and scrolled through the old Facebook posts. Mine, his, the comments, everything. It was like watching a movie of someone else's life, someone angrier, more wounded, more desperate to be understood. So I did one last thing. I deleted all of it. Every post, every photo, every message thread. Not to erase what happened, just to stop living in it. I left before sunrise. Matt was asleep on the couch, snoring softly. Mom was in her robe, holding a cup of coffee like it was keeping her alive. She didn't look at me when she said, "You did what you had to do." I nodded. So did you. Driving home, I felt lighter. Not happy, not even relieved. Just done. I realized I'd spent years trying to fix a man who didn't want to be fixed. And in the process, I'd almost turned into someone I didn't recognize. So yeah, the revenge worked. But not because it broke him, because it broke the cycle. Matt's still around, from what Mom tells me. Got a job at some warehouse across town. Still struggling, but apparently sober. We don't talk, and that's okay. Some distances aren't punishments. They're boundaries with teeth. And me? I finally stopped waiting for an apology that's never coming. I just hope one day he learns what I did. Sometimes the most selfish thing you can do is finally love yourself enough to stop saving everyone else.